Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mark Ennis, a.k.a. Shark, the PA announcer and DJ from your Savannah Bananas, and you are watching the Legends on Deck podcast with hosts Brian Koss and David Condi.
Welcome to episode 111 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with my co-host, David Condi. David, welcome back. Our guest today is a sports medicine doctor. Dr. Ron Lee is practices with the Florida Brain and Spine Institute. It's the name of his medical practice. He's also a basketball and tennis coach. I understand he coaches basketball at David's son's high school, Oasis High School in Cape Coral, Florida. And he is going to talk about a variety of topics related to athletes and health related to athletes and injuries and all those great topics that sometimes the not so fun part of sports but the very realistic part of sports. So Dr. Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
No problem. So, Brian, we wanted to kind of put a little announcement out there. I think this podcast is going to spearhead our next venture with Legends on Deck. I think you and I were kind of discussing not too long ago about kind of what can we do to really put that name out there, Legends on Deck, the next stars of the game, And I think we decided to kind of venture into the other sports world. You're not going to see another whole website. It's just going to be within the website, and a lot of our writers kind of cross over. We got a guy that writes about car racing. We have a guy that loves about basketball, and I think this just opens up the door to kind of give youth, the young guys that are kind of coming into journalism, the opportunity to also write on the site. So I'm kind of glad that we decided to go that route.
And I think it's a good pivot point because we've really we've been a very niche, whatever way you like to say it, website. We've explored every aspect of the game of baseball, from the little leaguers to former major league players and all that. And we will continue to write and tell stories on our podcast about baseball because we have so many great baseball connections, and David and I are so passionate about the game of baseball. But if we can sprinkle in and broaden into other sports, because they translate in so many different ways, and there's so many other stories to tell. And we were talking even recently about youth sports, and particularly high school into college, and we've kind of refocused on that as well, with coaches, with players, with recruitment, and you can really it expands the amount of stories that we can tell on our site by an infinite amount. If we're talking, local sports at the baseball or the football or the basketball or the whatever sport is your preference, there's so many interesting stories, and they all kind of go together. And then we have multi-sport athletes and things like that. So, this is kind of a
no-brainer. It was about time.
Yeah, right. This is the first episode of our podcast that is going to kind of feature that broadening of the Legends on Deck brand. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and with that being said, since we kind of want to get that out there, so we're going to start with Ron. Kind of give us a little bit of your background in sports. Where did you play? What did you do? What did you love? Kind of spearhead that. Where were you at when it comes to sports?
Yeah, so I fell in love with sports at an early age. I played a variety of sports growing up, and what's fun for you guys that you didn't know before I came on here was before I became a sports chiropractor, I was a sports journalist for quite a while. I wrote for Naples Daily News. I did some freelance work for News Press, and then the old Sun Herald up in Charlotte County, which I think is now called the Sun something or other. But I did that for quite a while before I transitioned into chiropractic. I was looking for a career change, and I kind of noticed I used to cover FGCU basketball and FGCU baseball. Spent a lot of time in the training rooms, and I realized it was the chiropractors that were kind of always helping the athletes get better. So when I started looking for a career change, I did some, online inventory profiles, and it came back with medical stuff. And I thought, hey, I'm going to give this a shot. And it kind of tied in with sports, altogether. So I've seen the game through a unique lens. I played a variety of sports growing up. I covered it as a journalist, and now I'm doing it as a sports medicine guy. So I feel like with that and the coaching, I'm pretty dialed into sports.
So wait a second. You see, that's the part that I didn't know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Wouldn't it
I
be
threw you a
nice?
curveball. I can't hit a curveball, but I
know,
try to throw you one.
So here's what I'm seeing. Dr. Ron Lee guest writing on Legends on Deck on any sport you want to write about.
Yeah, please. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. We got World Cup starting tonight, so.
Yeah.
There's so much out there. There's so much it's crazy. Like when we and Brian were thinking about it, there's just the game of baseball is amazing. I love it.
Yep.
But there's so many fans that, okay, you're looking at the NBA Finals. You have baseball fans, football fans, hockey fans, all coming together to root for the Knicks in New York, and it just makes you realize that the fan base is crazy. And if you just, share a story about basketball, so many people want to know about that. So many want to know about, great whatever, boxing, hockey, volleyball. There's so many different avenues. I just think me and Brian didn't want to expand ourselves way too much because, married with kids and kind of like working all the time. But it just makes sense. But you're right. Everything, your background just kind of gave you the opportunity to kind of see what was the niche that you needed to get yourself to where you can now give back to the game.
Sure. I think you guys are making a nice pivot. I like it. When we first scheduled this, we were kind of thinking about talking about, I'm kind of excited that you guys have expanded this up, but that doesn't change my love for baseball. I go back to fantasy baseball in the 90s when you still had to get a pencil and paper and tally up a box score.
Oh, yeah.
So
I love that.
I'm ready for all of it. So let's get into it.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I think, well, we got a little bit of background, you as a sports journalist, which was a bit of a surprise for us both, but that's great. So getting into the medical side, you decided to pivot your career into medicine, and particularly into the sports medicine side of things. And your specialty is a combination, or correct me if I'm wrong, but the Brain and Spine Institute. So you do a lot of neurology. You do the neurology is kind of the area that you're in, and spinal and brain issues. Can you share with us kind of what are some of the common issues or problems that you're typically addressing with athletes?
So with athletes, you got kind of two things going on. You've got injuries and you got performance. But just to kind of back that up, I'm a doctor of chiropractic by training. I kind of chose that to choose a more hands-on, physical medicine type thing instead of traditional medicine. So when I switched up, I got into that. And through that, I kind of discovered something called functional neurology, which is sort of a rehab, clinical-based neurology, people with movement disorders or neurological issues. That stems from, I had a loved one who was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole finding out what that was all about, how you treat that, what goes into that. And then when I was in chiropractic school and I discovered functional neurology, it just kind of followed that up. In the curriculum where I went, Palmer College of Florida, there's a big sports emphasis. You can take a sports track if you want. There's a great rehab and performance center there if you want to choose that as an elective. So I kind of dived into that stuff and I love it. And then I found that sports and neurology kind of go hand in hand. Athletes today, they know you can go on YouTube and kind of scratch together a workout if you can't afford a personal trainer. Most kids or most young athletes can go in a weight room and figure out how to squat, bench press, deadlift. But when we start talking about the neuroscience application of it, it moves into a whole different ballgame. So I also followed up the chiropractic degree with a neuroscience degree from University of Florida to kind of dive, deeper down that rabbit hole. And it's kind of just the direction I'm going with performance training now. So like I said, with athletes, you got a little injury, a little performance. You got to kind of treat both.
Question: when you're coaching, like say you coach basketball,
sure,
and your kids are playing and you're kind of watching them, are you hyper focused on, oh my God, there's an injury, I know what to do? Or are you just trying to not to think about that and kind of like put that to the side?
Oh no, I don't think about that. So my role with the team is I kind of do the strength and conditioning, and then I'm sort of a bench coach. I always got the medical kit right next to me. I tell them all the time I'm just a glorified water boy, really, at the end of the day. Some of these kids these days, you know how they are, just a Band-Aid in a juice box and they're feeling better, right? But I don't really think, injuries pop up, they pop up. I mean, it's not in sports, it's not when the next injury coming. It's, not if, it's when the next injury is coming. Someone's going to get hurt at some point in time. It's just part of the game. You just got to kind of go, keep going until they need you.
What?
So, go ahead.
You
got well, so I'm gonna get into a couple specific,
sure.
On the injury side.
Uh-huh.
What would be an issue that you would address related to, you're a basketball coach, so take something in the basketball field versus something in the baseball field that you might deal with and compare.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So basketball, it's ankles and knees. Basketball, you want to, like in our off-season strength and conditioning program, we put a huge emphasis on deceleration moves, step down moves, backwards sled walking, all kind. We're really trying to strengthen those ankles and knees and make them bulletproof. And thank goodness, I think we're going to our 4th year as a coaching staff. I know Condi probably got some Corey stories for you, but we're entering our 4th season as a staff, and luckily we've had no major knees or sprained ankles always looming, but those are pretty easy to clear up. But when you compare that to baseball, you're looking at totally different. You're looking at elbows and shoulders. You know what I mean? Especially in a pitching. You're looking at young pitchers managing pitch counts, looking out for little leaguers' elbow. And then shoulders. So those are the big things that are going to pop up there.
You're seeing more and more. I mean, David and I have talked about it on the baseball side, and there's more and more those types of injuries, those elbow shoulder injuries. It seems at a younger and younger age.
Sure.
I hear so many things about even younger than high school players having that issue. Is there any advice that you would have for parents, coaches at those younger ages on how to address those issues before they become issues?
Yeah, well, I mean, the giant elephant in the room is stop playing travel ball year round. I mean, let's just stop that, right? You know what I mean? That's the big thing with baseball and basketball is, just as bad. These kids are playing travel ball year round. The parents are paying big money. They want to see little Johnny play. So he's throwing way too many pitches than he should be throwing in a month. Most injuries in baseball, particularly baseball, are overuse injuries. So, you obviously have your traumatic things, collision at the plate or, getting hit with a foul ball. So, you have your freak traumas, but largely clinically what you're seeing is overuse injuries. So I would say, the classic stuff still works. It sounds cliche, but you can't out-train a bad lifestyle. So these kids need to sleep more. They need to eat better. They need to do calisthenics instead of practicing baseball 7 days a week. How about they spend a couple of days working on their bodies and getting strong, and then just, rest and not overdoing it.
No, that's a great point. I mean, one of the things, my son's the 11-year-old baseball player, and his team has a real good philosophy on this. They don't overplay tournaments, and they I've heard of other teams practicing all summer. We're not, but we are doing a strength and conditioning training a few days a week, and then we're doing some throwing and stuff. But it's kind of on your own. But it's like the importance of not overusing, not burning these kids out physically as well as mentally. But what about on the basketball side? What do you see from the overplay in basketball?
Sometimes it's mental fatigue I see more than fit. I mean, basketball players, I'm not going to, brag or anything, but they're the most conditioned athletes, right? I mean, we get
the most running.
Yeah, they're most running, and it's a mix of power, strength, and speed. It's mostly a power sport. We'll get football guys coming back at the high school level that come back from football season. The first 3 basketball practices, they're out the side door throwing up because they're out of conditioning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for basketball, it's the same for basketball players. Rest, give them their time. You know what I mean? When the high school season ended, we stopped and told them to rest their bodies. And then when we got back at it, it was just light stuff in the weight room and spending a little more time working on agility, footwork, things you don't have time to work on during the season. We played a limited travel schedule. When we're outside of high school, we have our own club team. So we just came off that, and this month of June they'll let you play as your high school. So right now we're focused on strength training, getting in a few games, and then that's it. They'll just kind of ease their way into the school year and just try to give them as much mental break as you can. They're students at the
True.
I think the school needs to just open up a strength and conditioning program. You just run it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the way it works now. I mean, but it's I mean, you know how it is, David. It's a small school with limited resources, so everybody has a role to play there.
I agree. So I want to ask you a question with the basketball compared to the baseball. Let's say like we're just touching on you said the shoulder and the elbow, the ankles, and the knees. I've always been told by some baseball guys, coaches, that you build from the bottom up.
Sure.
You build the legs and the bottom of the body because it gives you the strength for everything else.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to basketball, the ankles and everything you're kind of looking at, do you also build from the top down because you need the strength to be able to take the shots? And there's a lot of movement in basketball, especially having the strength to get the ball up.
That's a great question, but no, the answer is I build from the base up. I mean, baseball is a power sport. Basketball is a power sport. They're slightly different in their applications, but you have to have a lot of power to play baseball, and you got to have a lot of power to play basketball, and you're going to get that through putting force into the ground. So we start from the legs up. I mean, I can tell you right now, right before we hopped on here, I was actually over at the school in the weight room, and they were deadlifting heavy today, and you're hearing a lot of mumbling and grumbling, but they got to get that work in. So it's definitely, I'd rather them be stronger in the lower body than the upper body. I mean, at the end of the day, especially basketball players, one thing too, I don't like to give them too much like upper body work because at the end of the day, they're shooters, and you really want those guys with the long, lanky arms in that game. So you don't want to get them, too big upper body.
You want like Wemby. You want Wemby?
Yeah, well, he needs to put some weight on though. Good. Wemby's listening to this podcast. Call me, bro. We can get some weight on.
I was watching I was telling my son, and my son was laughing. I said, "It looks like a stiff breeze could blow Wemby right over."
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a shout out to one of our former guests and Andrew Reed. He's been writing a series on his Substack about the importance of multi-sport athletes.
Yeah.
One of the things that you see, and I'm sure you see it as a basketball coach, is an early concentration on one sport. And you could kind of weigh it. It's probably a good debate. Because if you work on certain skills in anything, you're going to get better at it, right? Sure. So there's probably plenty of stories of people that have primarily played one sport that have gone on to be professional in that sport.
Absolutely.
But in general, as a doctor and as a coach, and I understand you're a coach of multiple sports. You mentioned being a tennis coach as well. Do you advise players or young people in general to play more than one sport?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when you're young, you should play everything you possibly can. So I'm out here looking at my iPad as a book the title of the book is slipping my mind, but it's literally about this topic. And and in one of the early chapters, they kind of talk about the Roger Federer versus Tiger Woods debate, right? When Roger Federer was small, his mom was like a tennis pro instructor and didn't push tennis on him until he was about 14. He did everything from skateboarding to basketball, tried every sport. And then they sort of contrast that with Tiger Woods. And obviously everyone knows the story of, his dad.
Chipping from 3 years old.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that they have their pros and cons, right? Tiger is the greatest of all time, in my opinion, and he only played one sport.
Right.
But I definitely recommend, you got to develop motor skills. You got to develop your balance system. You got to develop your hand-eye coordination. And the best athletes are the ones who play multiple sports when they're children. It's just the way it is. I mean, my kids played multiple sports. I definitely recommend it. Now, when you get to the high school age and you start hitting that 14, 15-year-old range, okay, maybe pick the one you like the best and put your effort there. in our program, we're never going to tell kids to just play one sport. If you want to, we tell them, hey, you want to go play this, go play it. Like, go have fun. You only get one chance at all this.
So, a quick question on I want to jump into something with the your office. So, your strength and conditioning. At what point do you actually see athletes coming into your office, and then you have to kind of like, what are you doing at that point?
What am I doing for treatment? Yeah. So like I said, as a chiropractor, we obviously we're big on the spinal adjustment, which is great for recovery and maintenance work. Athletes and sports in general know that more than the general population. All 30 MLB teams, all NFL teams, all NBA teams have at least one chiropractor. On an NFL sideline, there's usually 2 on game day on the sidelines. So the sports population utilizes chiropractic at a higher rate than the general population. So a lot of athletes come in just for their maintenance and recovery work. I have all the recovery tools in there, the compression boots, and we do all the things. They like the dry needling, so a lot of it's maintenance work. And then if you're in for an injury, it's just like, going to any other doctor. You come in, we do an assessment, we see exactly what's going on, and we create a care plan for it. Usually when the injury is early, you're just looking at calming the injury down. And then as, pain goes away, you're looking at more of a rehab focus, getting them back to movement. And I'm very much in the philosophy of, I'm not going to give you a lot of rest as a prescription. I want you to get back to moving as soon as you can, because, you sit around too long, skills go away and nobody wants that. And I always say, in modern chiropractic kind of straddles the line of good physical therapy. I always say this day and age in this, 21st century, a good chiropractor and a good physical therapist, you probably shouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two.
I love chiropractic work. I've been going through it. I mean, I've had chiropractor for a long time. It's funny. I'll go to chiropractor before I go to the doctor because I feel like if the chiropractor gets me, your spine and your brain communicate, correct? So
absolutely,
if you do the right thing, then it heals your body. It naturally heals your body without putting so much crazy medication. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I'm biased. I feel I feel the same way. But chiropractic and neuroscience are inseparable. Chiropractic is neuroscience. It is neurology. Yeah. The spinal adjustment is affecting those systems. There's no dispute about that. So yeah, I tend to agree with you, David.
I have to come to you to help me in my lower back.
Yeah, please. Yeah, well, I mean that's the most common. We talked about sports
injuries
earlier.
Drill, though. You don't make me run around and do a strength and conditioning and say that's for your
No.
back.
So that's what we were talking about earlier. You got to kind of separate the two, right? You got to work. It's either an injury or you're either rehabbing or performing. In my philosophy, you're either rehabbing or you're performing. It's one of the two. And if you're in the clinic for an injury, you're rehabbing. And if not, we're trying to get you bigger, stronger, fast.
I do want to be strong and fast, though.
Yeah.
It's never too old. You're never too old to do that, right? So I'm going to pivot a little bit into because of your coaching background, right? So give us a little bit of insight into you say you're both coaching basketball at the high school level, and you're coaching tennis. Is that also a high school level?
That's at the high school level as well.
Oh, yeah. So you do like the basketball in the winter, and you coach tennis in the spring.
Yep. Yeah. The tennis thing was kind of small school, small resources. I kind of fell into that one, but I definitely enjoy my work with that. Shout out to Oasis Tennis. They just made their first regional appearance in school history and finished district runner-up.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's definitely a program on the rise. So if there's anybody out there that does a better job at coaching tennis than me, please take something off my plate.
You can't walk away now. You got to take this all the way.
Yeah, you brought them to the regionals. Yeah, they're not going to let you go.
No, I need my kids to get some of that NIL money. We rolled up against a school in the regionals, and 2 of the kids had NIL deals in high school, which is insane. That's a topic for another podcast, really.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to be touching a lot of that.
So did you have you mentioned you got kind of thrown in the tennis job. Do you have a background in tennis as well?
Well, I play a lot of tennis, and I play a lot of pickleball. Yeah. So I had a little background in it. And just, movement wise, but, you see an athlete, move and you kind of have an idea what's going on, with my
Right.
background, you can kind of figure it out,
Sure.
So
That's
how
funny.
does a tennis elbow come into something like that? How do you prevent that?
Uh, so we can get into injury prevention. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
that is just a lot of tennis elbow. Like I said, that's an overuse injury as well. A lot of that responds really well to soft tissue. Tennis elbow is sort of like the opposite of little league elbow. Tennis elbow is like lateral elbow pain, whereas little league elbow or what they sometimes call golfer's elbow is medial pain. So you want to really just work out those extensor muscles in the forearm. There's some rehab stuff you can do there, but that's largely an overuse injury as well. You just got to treat those pretty conservatively. The one thing about elbows is sometimes they respond really quickly and then sometimes they don't. It's so, if it doesn't respond quickly, you got to start looking at ergonomics or lifestyle or what is this patient doing outside of activity that might be contributing.
That's really interesting. Matthew, my son, a couple years ago, he had a pain in his elbow, and we didn't know what was going on. It wasn't anything that we can figure out. And we did some laser therapy, and actually,
Sure.
it actually helped him.
Yeah.
But it took time.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheap because insurance doesn't cover it. But
No, that's an episode that's another episode. Yeah, no, laser therapy, what they call low level laser therapy works phenomenal on conditions like that. And dry needling and acupuncture needles work great too. Those no, you don't even feel it go in. Those needles are so thin. But what happens is those tendons and muscles there's so much anatomy right around there. And you can massage them out, but if you can get the needle inside the muscle, you can release a big trigger point. It's mostly soft tissue and rehab with that condition.
So you don't feel the needle going into the tendon?
No, not at all. Sometimes you feel a little pinch. It's not the type of needle that cuts skin. It's what they call a filiform needle. So it goes in almost like a pencil tip. Leaves, usually like 9 times out of 10, there's no, blood, and you don't even really feel it go in. If you close your eyes, a lot of people are, hesitant about that, and they'll say, "Wait, is it in?" And I'm already done with what I was doing. So,
so is it giving a shock to the system when you do that?
Well, it's releasing. It's sort of an intramuscular release. There's some neuroscience behind that. You're bringing inside the muscle and tendon. You release little cellular mediators. So when you put the needle in, it kind of sends a cellular signal to the area, which kind of promotes healing and sends blood flow to the area, or what they call cytokines. Kind of that's the neuroscience behind it.
All this is so interesting because some of the stuff you hear about it, you don't know unless you see the results, and obviously you see results in it with your athletes.
Sure.
But it's just interesting that there's so many things out there that just take the Tylenol and you'll be good, but then the long effect of it doesn't really help it. Where it's something like what you're just talking about, really gets the athlete, whoever you're helping, to better health in the long run, to where they need to be.
Yeah, well, Tylenol and NSAIDs in general are just a Band-Aid. They're just masking a pain signal. They're not addressing root cause stuff. So if you don't get after the root cause, you'll just keep taking the Tylenol. Like I said, you just want to look at it. You want to make sure that, the muscles are no big trigger point. You just want to make sure everything's moving like it should. And they usually clear up pretty easy.
Well, I don't know about needles, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, you like the laser works though. If you got access to the laser, but like you said, insurance.
No, the access to the laser was someone we found from the hospital, but the price of that is just like if look, there's athletes out there that parents can pay for that, right? So they might be able to take care of that for them. And there's athletes that kind of need other stuff. It's good that there's other options. One may be better than the other. Obviously, you're paying for it.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's good to have other options for the athlete that can't pay for that. They can really it might take a little longer, but it's good for the body too.
Yeah. And the price of technology comes down over time. I mean, like the K laser was the first big brand to come out, and the Yankees had it in their clubhouse before anybody else. And you were looking at a $30,000 laser. So if you went into a clinic, treatments were $150, $200 a pop.
Yeah.
Now that, the price has come down on those, there's more, there's other competitors in the market space, and you can buy a really nice laser for $6,000-7,000. So you don't need to charge that much anymore.
Is there something in your industry that you're excited about that's coming along that is going to help you? Because technology changes every day. We're always seeing the expansion of AI in the business, and I don't know how it affects the medical side, but is there something that you're looking forward to that can really help you with the athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about just my profession going more into the mainstream. I certainly think, and I don't want to, it's not a political debate, but during COVID, half the population was unsatisfied with how that played out, right? And they kind of made a mess of the vaccine rollout, whether the messaging wasn't right on it or whatever. So a lot of people like yourself are more inclined to go see a chiropractor for their general aches and pains and day-to-day stuff. So, I'm excited where the profession's going. It's going mainstream. We are in with the VA now due to the opioid crisis. Veterans Affairs has taken on chiropractic big time. So there's chiropractors on, in the VA hospitals now treating pain. And I think just the integration into the mainstream, and it's a lower cost of the system. I mean, healthcare is expensive. So if you can, chiropractors at the end of the day that do this type of sports medicine stuff are conservative care doctors. If you pop in, it's going to be way cheaper to see me than someone else. And if you need to be escalated up the chain of command, we can get you there quick. So it saves the system. And in the sort of embracement of chiropractic in sports, like I said, every MLB, NFL, NBA team have chiropractors now, and they're starting to realize, like, hey, these guys are really good with sports injuries. So I'm excited about the future of that.
It's funny that you mentioned on the chiropractor how important it is, because if you go to the doctor, they'll say physical therapist, but they'll never say chiropractor.
That's changing though. That is changing. I get a decent amount of medical referrals. Recently, they've updated their physician's desk guide a few years ago, and they've included chiropractic management. And so I think the narrative on that is changing. I think it's like anything else; they just need to be educated. They go to a different schooling than we do, and not that we read the same textbooks, but the stuff they're taught in the classroom is a little different. So I think the more we integrate our profession, the better it's going to be for everyone. And I definitely see a good amount of medical doctors that are referring to chiropractic now.
Well, they can't deny the results, right? I mean, the results are right there, and people are, they're getting healthy, and that's the most important thing.
So there's, I think we talked about it earlier, maybe it was before we got on, but I wanted to just kind of get your take on it. You mentioned nutrition plans and things like that related to. So we talked about kind of like when your body is injured and how to treat it and different methods. I guess nutrition would kind of go into the preventative side, right? So I know that kind of that's another aspect of things that I think has changed in recent years is what people believe is a healthy, diet or a good diet for athletes. And there's some debate on that. But what kind of plans do you advise, and how important is a good nutrition plan for athletes?
It's for me outside of sleep and exercise, it's the number one thing. Like you've always heard, you can't outtrain a bad diet. You can't.
Right.
Diet has got to be number one. If you're not locked in on the diet, no matter what you do, you're not gonna perform your best. And I think, I look at a guy like, I know he gets a lot of hate, but the Michael Jordan LeBron debate, I don't know why we can't just say there's different eras, but you look at a guy like LeBron James, who is performing well into the age he's performing now. I recently read that he showed up at the beginning of the season at Lakers camp at 41 years old or 40, whatever he was, lowest body fat percentage on the team. I mean, this guy's commitment to diet is like none other. Tom Brady, he'll tell you.
Tom Brady is a good example.
Yeah, I mean, his diet was locked in. And so you're seeing these guys perform older, which is good news for me on the pickleball court. But you're seeing these guys perform older better because they're taking care of their bodies through, they're not out partying every night. They're eating well. They're going to sleep early. So, yeah, nutrition for me is number one. I don't know if you have any specific questions on that.
Oh, yeah, I'll be coming to you. I need to know what I should eat.
Well, I've actually read the Tom Brady diet book and all that stuff, and he's so strict. It's so difficult to follow. But I mean, you could see why it is the way that it is. Yeah, I guess my only follow up to that would be what is a general what in general what is a good uh, general diet for an athlete, even a young athlete, somebody at a
Sure.
young age, and how they should be eating or not eating.
Sure.
Obviously, cut out the sugars as much as possible,
Yeah.
but
Sugar is the worst thing. I mean, sugar and processed carbohydrates are the worst, but you don't have to be as strict as Tom Brady. I think they call it the Pareto rule, 80-20 rule, they call it. As
yeah,
long as 80% of the time your diet's locked in, you can have some room for junk. But for
right.
young athletes, you want to prioritize protein for sure. I mean, I know that's kind of the buzzword these days, but it's true because it rebuilds tissues, it builds muscle, it gives them the amino acids they need. In an athlete, I'm more inclined to bump up the carbohydrates way more than in a general population person. I always tell people, like, earn your carbohydrates. So, you really want to save carbs for exercise if you're, exercising heavy. And if you're not, then cut back a little bit on the carbs. And then certainly healthy fats, omega-3 fats, particularly, you want to have a fair amount in there. And every athlete's a little different, but we use a macro calculator. We'll sit down and I like to see their activity level, and then I kind of tailor in like, hey, this is how many calories I want to eat. And the good thing with that is that it's people kind of overcomplicate it, but a gram of protein has 4 calories, a gram of carbs has 4 calories, and a gram of fat has 9. So if you do the math on a calculator back there, you can tell someone exactly how much protein they should eat, or carbs or fats. But certainly for most young athletes, 99% of them, unless they have some sort of, hereditary condition where they can't digest protein, you got to get that in there as best you can.
Yep. I'm a big protein eater, so I would appreciate I push that on my kids. I'm like,
Sure.
just eat, just put the other stuff down. But no, I get it. I get it. I see the difference. I've seen the difference in my own diet is
Sure.
up in protein and lower in sugars and carbs.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but I can imagine as an athlete, how much of a difference maker that is. So it's important. It's like you said, such a major factor in everything.
Sure. Well, I mean, the biggest problem in America, in our Western diet, the Western diet and what they call the standard American diet, or like some, doctors will call it the SAD diet, right? Is,
Yeah.
the obesity epidemic and the diabetes epidemic. I mean, we are the most industrialized country in the world. Some countries in Western Europe that eat our style diet. I mean, the obesity rates and the diabetes rates are through the roof. So you just really have to, for these young kids, get them off the sugar and get them off the refined carbs, or they're just, it's not good for their bodies. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. David,
Well, no, I'm just taking it all in.
soaking it in, man.
A lot
Soaking
of
it in.
information, and I'm just listening and learning
David,
something as we go.
this has been like a lesson, for you and I. We're just not asking about the athletes. We're trying to figure out what to do with our own lives.
yeah.
So
You got to be your own health advocate. That's lesson
right.
number one, is you have to, no one's going to do it for you. You got to be your own health advocate.
It's just
Absolutely.
when you're older, it takes a lot more time, and the energy's not always there. Even though I work on my feet half the day, and then the other half I'm sitting down, but I figure the half the day I get the exercise in, the other half I'm just resting.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you're getting it in, you're better than already 85 per 90% of your peers if you're exercising at all.
Well, yeah, the exercise I don't mean at the gym. Like, I'm on my feet with my
Sure.
business in the morning time, but I'm out in the heat, I'm out in the sun. I'm out in the. I'm not just stuck in a building all day long, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting the vitamin, D, whatever, C, whatever it is.
Well, you're pretty lean. You're a pretty lean guy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I got fat in areas that maybe don't need to be there either. But so we wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of share about your business, where you're at, where you're located, kind
Sure.
of get people to want to understand more about it. So platform's yours.
Yeah, so I'm located in Southwest Florida. I don't know where all your audience is spread out. I'm in Southwest Florida. I'm in Cape Coral. My office is in Cape Coral. It's the Florida Brain and Spine Institute. Like I said, we got our hands in all kinds of stuff. So we are, if you're hurt, or if you need performance, if you need nutrition, I dabble in functional medicine. We dabble in functional neurology. If you've had movement disorders or concussions, or you're dealing with any of that, we treat any and all of that. You can find me. My website is fbsinstitute.com. If you need to reach out an email, it's r.lee@fbsinstitute.com. You can come in office, or we can do consultations over Zoom calls like this. I do a lot of telehealth. So if you're not in the Southwest Florida area and you want to talk, we do free 15-minute consultations online. And if we need to create a care plan, nutrition plan, or performance plan, we can do that for you as well.
Well, that's awesome. We'll definitely spread the word out as well. Get all your information on the.
Thank you.
Out. Yeah.
Sure. I'm just happy to be here, man. I love talking sports and sportsman. This has been fun. I got to give a shout out to one guy, though, because the name of your podcast is Legends on Deck, right? So there's a guy named Dr. Earl Painter from back in the day. He's a huge inspiration of mine in sports chiropractic. He was the head athletic trainer for the New York Yankees from 1930 to 1942, at a time when the athletic trainer moniker wasn't even given out yet. This guy's credited with modernizing professional sports training and science. He was the team doctor for the Yankees. He's credited with getting the Babe back in shape. I mean, by 1930, a lot of people said the Babe was washed. And he really worked with him on mobility and movement, and went all the way through the 40s with those guys. And later in life, he ended up coming to St. Pete and opening up one of the first health, nutrition, and workout clubs in the country. So this guy's a titan of the chiropractic industry and a legend on deck, as you'd say.
Wow, that's a really interesting. Something I never knew. It's a nice little baseball trivia. But of course it applies across the board, just like Babe Ruth being the first major athlete, kind of the first celebrity athlete. That's kind of the guy behind the guy there.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's cool when you look at that kind of stuff, because like I said, this was a time when nobody was talking about athletic training, and here you got a weird chiropractor doing the stuff, keeping the Yankees tight.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, Dr. Lee, we really appreciate you spending time with us today. It was a great discussion, a lot of good information that the listeners and our audience is going to really appreciate. A lot of useful information that they can apply to their own lives. So,
if anybody out there listening needs anything, feel free to shout out. I'm definitely approachable, and I love to help. So I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been really fun. I like the pivot switch, so if we need to come back and talk anything else, let me know.
We've opened up a can of worms that we're not going to shut out and close up, and we're going to really delve into the world of sports, because there's so many great things going on in basketball and football. I'm not a football fan, but there are a lot of things good with the kids playing it. And listen, we love baseball. I know there's not a lot of kids that are playing it as much in other areas, but with the basketball, the tennis, the golf, the football, it's just kids are everywhere. And any way that we can share that story, we want to do that, because you never know. You never know where that legend is, right? You never know where the next legend is. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you guys. We're going to wrap up episode 111 with Dr. Lee. Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can watch
more. Thank you.
Shows.
Oh, yeah. You got to subscribe. All of our socials, especially YouTube.
You're welcome.